Everybody, welcome back. Today we are going to talk about the topic of sacrifice and how it's not exactly what we might think that it is. Sacrifice has been really driven home and embedded into our psyche thanks to religion and the narrative of Jesus and how he, died on the cross for our sins. He sacrificed himself, and that kind of leads this war cry of you better do good and cross all of your T's and dot all of your I's, and so you can, not waste the sacrifice that Jesus has made, which is bullshit. And we'll get into why. But it's probably good to define sacrifice. And sacrifice essentially is the imbalance in giving and receiving in which someone is overgiving. And the problem with this is that in the spiritual realm, everything exists in balance and harmony. There is no overexertion of any kind of energy at all, especially an overexertion of giving and overexertion of receiving. Everything exists in harmony. And so this idea that sacrificing is the most holy thing that we can do, like Jesus, becomes questionable when we start to look at it through the lens of balance and harmony. Because essentially the paradigm or the lie that exists within the mind around sacrifice is that if I give and give and give now, if I sacrifice now, I'll have a reward later. And that, even if that means I have to wait until I'm dead, and then God himself is going to reward me. But there is this dynamic of if I give everything I can and essentially suffer, then I'm going to have an equal reward at some point. And we can do this when it comes to kind of our spiritual walk and our perception around God and heaven and all of that, but we can also do it with relationships, where we overgive or we sacrifice ourselves hoping to receive something from that person. And that kind of starts to point to where this idea of sacrifice lives in the psyche. Because what if there was no reward for what you were bending over backwards to do? What if no one knew about it? Or what if no one knew, but they never acknowledged you for doing that thing or doing those things? And so that's usually a pretty good recipe for resentment. And so if there is no reward, there is no acknowledgement, or maybe people didn't even know in the beginning, we start to lose, there's an aspect of this that we start to lose our value for. Because underneath the surface, what we're really looking for is to receive something. And a lot of times it has to do with being accepted. We want people to see us for being good people. And so we want to be accepted. We want to be loved. It can even be for status. Like, look at me, look what I did. I'm so pious. I'm so holy, promote me to Pope or whatever. And it can, usually we're looking to gain something, but if we're not gaining anything, then the dynamic here really starts to change. And so when we are in our own dynamic of giving and receiving, whether it's for a relationship or an institution or what have you, it's always good to kind of hold this in check and continually ask ourselves if we feel like we're in balance. Do we feel like we're in balance? Am I holding out for a promised reward that may or may not ever come? And then, the rub is that a lot of times too, we'll find ourselves at a crossroads where we have a couple different choices, and either choice will be sacrificing. And so sometimes we paint ourselves into a corner. And one of these instances is kids. We sacrifice a lot for our kids. And I feel like in our soul's journey, when we come to these places where it's like, well, I could choose to go left or I could choose to go right in my decision, but either way, I'm going to be sacrificing something. I don't necessarily think that we're in the wrong place or we're doing the wrong thing. I just think we're on a journey where we're being taught about sacrifice, the elements of sacrifice. Do we value sacrifice? And we'll come out the other side of that experience, hopefully having a much more refined and evolved, perspective around sacrifice and where our values are with it. Because there may very well be a healthy version of sacrifice. And maybe that healthy version of sacrifice is something that happens with kids where it's like, I don't need any reward. I don't really even need to have anybody know what I sacrificed or be acknowledged that I'm sacrificing for my kids, because it's something that I'm choosing to do because I feel like it is in my own value system. It's in my own integrity. It's in my own nature to do these things. And if I didn't do them, I would be going against my own nature. And yes, I'm giving up a lot of things for kids in this example, but I wouldn't have it any other way. So, there might be a different definition. There might be a second definition of sacrifice that actually exists in the realm of where giving and receiving is healthy. And maybe we are giving more than we're receiving at first blush, but maybe what we're really giving somehow fills us up. And so I think that there's both. I think there's the unhealthy version of sacrifice, and I think there's this healthy version of sacrifice. And I think it's our job to really figure out which one is which, because those waters can get very muddy. Those waters can get very muddy, and I think it's good to know that if we're looking to feel rewarded, or we're looking to have somebody acknowledge us, or that we're getting some kind of accolade, that might be venturing into the unhealthy version of sacrifice. Whereas if we're doing it just because we feel like it's in our nature to do it, it's in our nature to be a giver, it's in our nature to give up something that we really love so somebody else can have something that they really love, like one of our kiddos, it's all worth keeping on our radar and understanding that there are different versions. Until next time, I hope you're all doing very well, and I look forward to our next video.